It's you, and today we're making another Sword of Convallaria review discussion guide video on one of my favorite units of all time, that is Acambe, the National Merchant. And actually, funny story, not really funny, but old story, is that he was actually ranked 5, I think around when I ranked 5 my Mytha. Like, he was one of the original rank 5s on my account, and honestly, I've really enjoyed him ever since. I just don't play him too much often because I think there's a lot of other units to play as, so I just I don't know, I switch them in here and there, but generally just there's a lot of units to play, so we definitely give him some time to breathe. Anyways, let's just go over how you might play a Acambe, what he might be useful for on a particular team, I guess team comps, item comps, ability comps, all this sort of stuff. I will say I do find him very similar to someone like Afra, who kind of is a jack of all trades. I think Acambe is a little different in that they also can be played very much more offensively and a more nuke or sustained style of damage gameplay. On top of that, Acambe doesn't have the healing, but where he doesn't have healing, he does have the ability to offer a little more utility in regards to, I guess, controlling the battlefield. So we can go over all that, but before any of that, let's get into what he does as his trait. And of course, mine is 5-star, and a lot of this is subject to the star level of Acambe. Okay, so what does he do for his trait? He is National Merchant, which increases Acambe's attack by 15%. It also allows him to have a total of 9 energy, opposed to 5 energy, which everyone else has. And for every 3 energy owned, he additionally gains 1 energy at the end of the turn. And when Shadow Assassin is present on the battlefield, he gains Secret Signal. Secret Signal is an ability that does 100% of its caster's attack as cooldown 3 turns. Acambe's damage dealt by Secret Signal is additionally increased by 15%, and he also gains 3 initial energy. In general, it basically sounds like he has a meditation, basically, that just happens innately, passively, as long as you have 3 more energy. On top of that, he also has the ability to additional damage via his Shadow Assassins through his trait. So that's definitely a big part of his kit. Also, with that being said, it definitely does gear towards more offensively based, just based on the fact that he has another damage dealing ability based on his Shadow Assassins, and also his damage is also increased through his attack, and it's only his damage, right? You shouldn't have someone like Convallaria who also has HP increase. It's strictly just his attack being increased, so he's definitely offensively geared, at least from his trait. Okay, what does that mean? What does that mean for Acambe? Let's just go through some of his abilities that you might use, ones that might be interesting, and then potentially we can go through some of the more utility-based ones, as well as, I guess, the defensive ones as well, since we're going to go through all of his abilities. And of course, after all of this, we're going to end up going over the gameplay, how it might play, and stuff like that. Okay, for his abilities, there's a lot to be choosing from. We can start off by just going over his innate ability that he gets, which is going to be referenced a lot, which is his Shadow Assassin. So this is basically an instant that summons a Shadow Assassin on account of Acambe, and it basically inherits 85% of Acambe's attack, also 20% of his defense and HP. So you can get them a little more tankier, but in general, they're probably just more used for their offensive and utility-based debuffing. And of course, if they're killed, the skill is increased by 1 turn, the cooldown of it is increased by 1 turn, and also interesting in that this is an instant that has no cooldown if it's not, if this doesn't trigger, right? If it's part of the ability and that their Shadow Assassins stick around, it basically just has no cooldown, which is particularly interesting, but is limited to 2 times per round, so you keep that in mind. And the Shadow Assassins are just ninjas that have, I think, 2 abilities. One is a assisting strike that can be triggered up to 2 times per round, and the other is a Vorpal Strike, I think, or it's the ability labeled on his, Secret Signal, which is basically, it triggers Vorpal Blade, which does 100% of the caster's damage. So you can kind of think of this, at least depending on your star level, as doing 85% of Acambe's damage whenever he does trigger the Secret Signal. But yeah, so a lot of his abilities are based around this. Okay, so what does that mean for his abilities? Let's go over his abilities and what you might want to use. So I think, like I was sort of alluding to, is that Acambe basically can be built in a variety of different ways. He's sort of the jack of all trades, similar to Afra, in that he can be played more utility debuff based. He can play more of a aggressive nuke damage based, so you can do all damage in one single turn, or you can do an AoE based build, or a more sustained route. And I think the sustained and AoE have a lot of overlap or are very similar, basically. Okay, so what traits, what does that look like? So first things first, let's just go over his abilities. So for a attack or single target based way, or way of playing Acambe, you definitely want to go more single target if you don't want to do like sustained damage, or if you want to be just basically like an aggressive damage dealer. And that's to say you want to run something like maybe, and of course this is all can be probably interchangeably swapped between any other build, but like something like Energy Ray. The reason why you might want an Energy Ray in a single target based build is that this allows some breathing room for I guess the increased energy usage that you'll be using, because a lot of these other abilities do require large amounts of energy. And so this basically means you don't tax your energy as much as you would if you had like another energy spending ability. So this is particularly nice. It also does a decent amount of damage on top of if you're attacking a unit with a shield. The extra 15% damage is nothing to sneeze at. On top of that, I think most shields are physical shields, and so this is basically just like icing on the cake, where like this is doing just 155% more damage, right? 155% damage, not more damage, but like just damage, period. So particularly okay ability. I think it's generally worth it in most builds that he has, just because he does require a lot of energy to use his other abilities. On top of that, for a single target based build, you might want to run something like Hypnosis. This allows Acambe some breathing room. Also, it has 3 range, so it does give him some space between his targets and ability to, I guess, build up some energy before you actually need to do the damage. On top of that, you have Charge Attack, Disarm Strike. If you're going offensive damage based, I think you want to go for Charge Attack. This gives you additional 15% more damage on your next skill. On top of that, if you don't even have a next skill, you can just use this to increase Charge Attack itself for this next ability. So it basically, if you do some napkin math, is increasing it to 95% magical damage. Just think of it that way, kind of. I think Disarm Strike is also very valid. I think it's definitely the more helpful way of going about Acambe, just because in general, Acambe doesn't have a particularly strong damage deduction from his build, unlike other abilities, like other units, unless you go for like the Rage. Like this social class, which we'll go over later, just doesn't offer any damage reduction, and you can kind of think of this Disarm Strike as that damage reduction that he would get. So this might be good. Also, he has a short range, so this might be also particularly good in the fact that like he has to get kind of closer to units than I think maybe a lot of other units have to, for at least this sort of damage profile / this type of role. And last but not least, you also have Darkest Annihilation. This is a 4 energy ability that does 180% damage. On top of that, has armor piercing, so it ignores 40% of the unit, the target's defense. So this does a crap ton of damage. This is oftentimes hitting like 20k damage for a single target attack. It's kind of nutty, and being able to spam it every turn has been amazing. So if you do go a single target attack damage route, this is good. And of course, occasionally you might want to put in some extra sort of damage around there, or spread some damage at least. And you might want to go with Dark Ripple. This is also pretty good. It does 3 energy, but only does 70% AoE damage. It also attacks on some no passive skills, no reaction skills, which is like okay, decently strong. But of course, I think this is only useful as far as like knocking out another landing blow after casting a Dark Ripple. But of course, the extra debuffs do help a lot. But I think there is definitely a lot of overlap between like these passive debuffs that you're adding to the enemy and like your Shadow Assassins. So do keep that in mind. Not to say redundancy is bad, but that there will be some redundancy there. Okay, and that's like the single target build, or I guess set of abilities you might use. You could do something like this. You'd go like Rage, Energy Ray, maybe something like a Hypnosis if you want some more time before you need to use a lot of your energy, and then something like a Dark Annihilation. I'd probably swap Hypnosis with something like a Dark Ripple, and then this way you can just like start spamming energy or damage here. And this basically also does mean that because if you do build it this way, if you do have another energy regenerator, or if you do ensure that like you're at 6 energy whenever you do cast like a Dark Ripple, you can just basically cast Dark Ripple every turn, because you're getting 2 energy from having the additional 3 energy. I'm sorry, you get 2 energy every turn for having the 6 energy, and then you get the 1 energy per turn, and so you can cast Dark Ripple off cooldown basically. And then when you actually do need to spend all your energy, you can just like start ripping a few Darkest Annihilations, and this should definitely destroy a bunch of units. And this is definitely a very fun way of building Acambe, is that he's just basically nuking units with like very little sort of effort in his part, right? It's just Darkest Annihilation is a very strong skill, and he just happens to have it. Okay, so what else how else are we building Acambe? Let's go over his other abilities. I definitely do think you want to end up using Rage a lot, just because the extra damage up to by 20% is going to allow you some breathing room for your assassins to keep doing their thing, which is doing damage. Okay, so let's see. We have this like AoE build. Let's go over a more sustained sort of, I guess, assassin / summon build. This is particularly my more favorite build, which is basically doing something with a lot of his signature abilities, and we can just go over them. So you have stuff like Squander, Greed Leads to Ruin, and this is, I think, basically one of his bread and butter abilities. It is, of course, a decision skill, so that even makes it more versatile. We talked about like versatility in like teams. This is like where a lot of it comes from for Acambe, and it's particularly unique too. So the first one is, and this of course is 2 energy, I think, to use this. The first one is Greed Leads to Ruin. So this sprinkles gold coins around the target and basically moves all units that are within the vicinity to around those the target tile that you selected, and it reduces their movement down by 2. Also reduces their magic defense down by 2, and it reduces it stops their assist. So basically prevents assisting attack. So it really nicely sets up like any sort of single target damage dealing abilities, but also just random AoE damage dealing abilities. Particularly magic damage dealing abilities because it has magic defense down 2, so it's particularly strong. I feel like I'm rob guiding here a bit. Okay, next up we have Rich Rewards. So this is very similar to a Coco Bento, or I guess Happiness, in that this is going to restore 1 energy and reduce 1 cooldown for active skills, and grants surrounding units attack up and magic defense up 2. Additionally, if you have any summoned units around Acambe, which is also a reason to run a more summon unit based team, you get attack up 4. So basically those units are going to do tons of damage because a lot of them do inherit from just like their main unit that spawns them. I'm thinking of something like Flavia's Flower. I'm thinking of stuff like the Hanged Man from like Safia. There's a lot of units that can benefit from this, and just having this overlap with like Acambe's units means that like you're just adding so much damage output on the field based on like the summoned units. So yeah, this is particularly strong as well. You also have stuff like special clauses for Acambe. This basically I feel like is definitely the lesser used of the abilities in my opinion, just because you don't want to, depending on how you play Acambe, you generally don't want Acambe to switch with his summoned units because that's a lot of his damage output and also a lot of his utility. But of course, if you're going like, I don't know, for whatever reason you need the special clauses because you're going more of a single target damage route, this also could be reasonable. It's just for me, if I'm playing Acambe, I'm definitely using a lot more of those summons for my advantage. There's also rewards and punishments. This is a aura that helps discipline units. It increases Acambe's attack by 10% and defense by 20%. And for skills with cooldown at least 4 turns, cooldown is reduced by 1 turn. Additionally, increases the damage dealt by allied summoned units. So I know we said that based on the secret summons. What is the ability that spawns the Shadow Assassins? Shadow Assassin. Shadow Assassin spawns Shadow Assassin. Makes sense. They've done that a lot. So based on Shadow Assassins, which we know it gets 85% of Acambe's damage, and the fact that their ability, Vorpal Blade, does 100% of their own attack, you can kind of say that Acambe is doing 85% damage here with Shadow Assassin, right? Now, if you think about it this way, and this of course is some Navika math, if you add this rewards and punishments, I think they also do get 10%. They also get 10% attack, right? So on top of that, if you do some Naka math with the additional 20% damage from the Shadow Assassin's Vorpal Blade, this is doing a little, probably over around 100% of Acambe's damage. And this just makes the damage output particularly nice. Also increasing the defense of these Shadow Assassins allows them some durability if you want to use them as basically bait. So I think all in all, this is like a really strong ability. Just do note that like if you're going this route, do consider running some other extra summon units, because increasing like the damage dealt by summon units is really strong. And so this is going to increase the damage like a lot of your units are going to be doing by just like having this around, right, on Acambe. Okay, last but not least, we also have Burning Riches. So Acambe deals 9% damage to the first enemy in each row within 5 to 3 area in target direction. Knocks them back by 2 tiles and summons Shadow Assassins per tile within 3x1 area in front of Acambe. After attacking, Acambe gets no energy restored for 2 turns, and the no energy restored can be immunized. So you can run something like a fancy hat in order to stop this from happening. On top of knowing like this summons 3 units, this also is 3 energy, so the rate of spamming this is much more efficient than just using Shadow Assassins, and which you get a 2 for every 1 Shadow Assassin. Shadow Assassin gives you 2 energy. Requires 2 energy per 1 Shadow Assassin. This is giving you 1 energy per Shadow Assassin, but it is on a 5-turn cooldown. It might be important to know if you do run it with something like rewards and punishments, you do get a lower cooldown for this. But yeah, do note that. So if you do want to spam that, that might be like the best way to consider playing Acambe. Okay, so yeah, we already see a lot of utility. There's also some other utility abilities that we didn't really go over, which is potential burst. We see these on a bunch of other units like Gloria, and I think maybe 1 or 2 other units. Now they have a little bit different effect, I think, but in general, it also is increasing. Actually, no, it might be the same because attack up is by 40%. No, attack up is by 20%, and then defense is increased by 40%. And then also dispels all attribute debuffs from the target, granting them immunity from these buffs as well, and lasts for 2 turns. I think is really good, as if you're targeting this onto a tank. It's just like a really strong thing to have. Okay, so that's most of Acambe's abilities, and of course, if you do go, in my opinion, a more supportive route, a more AoE sustained damage way, I'd go something like this. This gives you also a lot of support, and gives you just a lot of damage potential as well. And this gives you a lot of support in that, like, you do have the Squander, which gives you the energy regen, and this is like a pretty loaded ability, the Ritual Wards, is that it gives you energy regen and cool direction on top of attack increase and defense up. Do note that the Shadow Assassins are also doing a lot of debuffing here. They actually have the same debuffs that you'd get from a level 2 debuff set. So you've got stuff like no passive skills, no reactive skills, no healing, also like attack down 2, all sorts of things. So there's a lot going on here. And of course, we'll eventually go and show what that looks like inside of a single game. I'm actually kind of surprised how fast I've been getting through this, but hopefully it's not sounding like too much rambling. Okay, we're almost through. And then we'll play some games to show off like how you might, I don't know, do some combos with Acambe, or like how you might synergize with Acambe, stuff like that. I'm not going over Ascension just because I feel like he doesn't have his own Ascension skill yet, and it's not quite worth running the Ascension that they have, but that is like a potential thing to do, is run Ascension. I think it only helps in context with, I think most of the time, his single target build, but based on like what I'm seeing from Acambe's Secret Signal, in my opinion, it's like, I'm not sure if Acambe is actually doing the damage here, or if it's actually the Assassins doing the damage, because it says Acambe's damage dealt by Secret Signal is increased by 15%, but it's not saying Shadow Assassin's damage dealt by Secret Signal is increased by 15%. But I think like if you go to the result screen, Acambe generally isn't showing too much damage just because most of it is from his Assassins. So do keep that in mind. Okay, so what are we building apart from his equipments? I think there's a lot of things you can do with Acambe's equipments. In general, I think from what you might have seen from his abilities, it is particularly energy taxing. But do keep in mind that, like, just because you have the ability to spam all your abilities, you don't have to, right? Like, you should keep some of your abilities in your pocket just in case like you do need it, not just like because you have because you can use it, right? So it definitely is a testament on like just being conservative a bit, right, with Acambe, if you're not running too much energy generation outside of his own kit. Okay, so for weapons, I think there's 3 main weapons, but there are a few that you can run outside of his general play patterns. The main ones, I'll just say out loud, is just like something like Starry Sky Heritage, Skeleton Staff, or Focus Wand. Now, you can switch Skeleton Staff with Cornucopia Staff. I think they're pretty interchangeable. I think Cornucopia Staff is a little bit better, but of course it's kind of seen as like pay to win kind of, just because it's only part of the Battle Pass. Do keep that in mind though. The only difference here between the Cornucopia Staff and we'll see this in game, is that the Skeleton Staff triggers on units around you dying, where the Cornucopia Staff happens passively. So do keep that in mind. Like, there are ways to ensure that your units do die in game, and you can leverage them as like bait for in cases where like you need someone to die, or you need something to die for your energy generation. That's like a route that you can take. I think Focus Wand is good just because he does a lot of single target damage, and he's kind of short range. So this does give him that extra range. At the expense of course, you have to make sure you play super safe or having a healer on your team, because I don't know, I feel like it's very hard to get around with like not being dealt damage. I think sustain is like possible for sure, but like you need to find ways to ensure that you're always like topped off. Okay, but like the other ways you can play Acambe, you can also introduce something like Nightmare Puppet. If you go this route, you want to run something like Dark Ripple and like Disarm Strike, so that way you can nice and handily ensure that like you're applying all the buffs you can. So let's like this, and then you maybe change something like Rewards and Punishments to Dark Ripple. This definitely gears Acambe more towards a supportive damage dealing route, just because I think that Rewards and Punishments is actually particularly helpful for Acambe. But yeah, this is going to be nicely suitable for like the Nightmare Puppet route. But also, you can go the Resentment Broom as well. If you're going this route, you can basically put on a lot of life loss. But this is like, getting in the nitty gritty and like how you might want to build Acambe, just because like he doesn't really benefit too much from the AoE damage. I think he definitely does like the magic attack increase though. Okay, so on top of that, you could, I think that's mostly it. You could go like Resentment Diffusing Broom, but like this increases your magic attack. But the bad thing about this one though is that it increases the damage for AoE damage, right? But Acambe doesn't do too much AoE damage. He does, the only AoE damage I think he does reasonably is the Dark Ripple. The other ones are based off his assassins. So I'm not sure if that actively is like that good for Acambe, but it is like a way you can do things. I think that's most of it. So yeah, in general, just go back and say it out loud. Is like Starry Sky Heritage, Focus Wand, Skeleton Staff, and Cornucopia Staff are probably best. There's something we said about having like Diffusing Prism and Nightmare Puppet. Nightmare Puppet also gives you more HP, so it increases the longevity of your Shadow Assassins as well. But he doesn't take into account the Nightmare Puppet 3 special debuff as well, just because he doesn't do piercing damage. So do keep that in mind. Okay, for his trinkets, I think his trinkets that you might want to use are there's probably only 2 or 3. Of course, there's like the go-to, which is the Shield of Justice, which helps defensively and offensively for Acambe because your spawns do take into account your attack and defense. Offensively, you could also go something like Origin Hourglass, which is increasing your physical attack and magic attack by 2%. Acambe does have not too much range, so move down and speed down too, it can be like a huge hurdle for him. So ensuring that he gets immunity to that is going to be super helpful. You could also go Flying Arm Guard. This gives you piercing damage. Mines are rank 6. And so basically with this, you do trade off like the magic attack and physical attack up by a percentage based into like a actual attack here. So like, yeah, definitely is for a more damage based route for Acambe, but this also does trigger your Shadow Assassins so for them to do additional extra damage. This also allows you to ensure that you do all the damage that your Shadow Assassins can get out on a single round in one turn by using like Sudden Strike on top of like your auto attack as long as you're in range. And then on top of that, I think that's mostly the only good trinkets that you might run for Acambe. Like there might be something to be said for like, I don't know, Disaster Bottle if you're going like a supportive route, but in general, that's probably as much as you're going to go for Acambe's trinkets. Okay, so what else is there for Acambe? I think there's a lot to be said for the tarot cards. I think in general, there's the only 3 of them that work the best. So we'll just go over those ones. That is like Guidance of the World, Temptation of Devil, and Course of Fortune. So I would say Course of Fortune only because Acambe can't be particularly energy taxing, and so you can roll something like Energy Recovery on top of, you know, something like attack and defense attributes increased, so it gives you more attack and defense, which helps his kit in general. I think helps everyone's kit in general, but basically more so than Acambe because he does give those attributes to his summoned units. On top of that, he does require a lot of energy recovery, so getting energy recovery rolls on here is going to be super helpful for him to spam his abilities. And also, if you do get even like the HP recovery for allies in range, is going to be helpful because you can potentially heal up some of your summoned units as well to take an extra hit if need be. He is short damage or short range, so damage reduction is also helpful here, but also increasing damage is going to be helpful too in general if you're going at least like if you're going single target damage dealing or if you're relying on your basic attacks to trigger your Shadow Assassins. Okay, next up we do have something like Devil. Temptation of the Devil is going to be helpful here because when Shadow Assassins die, they actually trigger Devil. And that's only if they die from like being targeted. And this might go point towards like using them more aggressively, lighting them one by another adjacently, because then they're going to attract attention of enemies. Otherwise, they're going to be untargetable. And because you do that, they're going to trigger your Devil, and Devil does increase your attack and defense, and so it's going to be like a nice cycle, and that the more your Shadow Assassins die, the next ones that you do spawn are going to be more stronger defensively and offensively. Also points to like having a more summon-based team because this is going to help all of your, this is probably going to be triggered throughout all your summons. And then also the last one to go over is Guidance of the World. And Guidance of the World is going to be helpful because it reduces the energy, it recovers energy when not using an active skills. Acambe's has quite a few active, instant skills. For example, you have stuff like Shadow Assassin Summon, and then you have stuff like Read leads to Ruin. So those are like instances. I guess he doesn't have too much instances after that, but like just spamming those over and over by itself, I think is maybe even good enough to warrant Guidance of the World. And then I think for the unique 4th slot, you don't have to really get the unique 4th slot. I think it's sufficient just to have like this skill here and rely on like magic attack. Okay, and that's basically the rundown of Acambe. I hope I got mostly everything under 25 minutes. I think is like a goal in my opinion. I did do a whole speed run, but hopefully we can take it a little more slower and then like, go over how Acambe works in game. Of note, of things I didn't mention is the sort of exponential increase in strength that you might get from Acambe. For example, you can imagine we do increase our damage for our Shadow Assassins by just like giving Acambe extra magic attack or extra health or defense, right? And now when you do increase the the damage and I guess defensive attributes from Acambe to the Shadow Assassins, they basically just spawn with those, right? But that's not to say that you can additionally increase, like, independently of that, the actual Shadow Assassin's damage too. So there's a lot of damage increase here, and we can kind of show that in game. But like, yeah, that's also something to note. Okay. So let's first go over like a single target build. I can show you how that might look in game. And in general, I think this is going to be helpful in showing that, like, I guess a few things. One is the damage that you can create from Acambe just based on his kit, and two is like the need to be somewhat determinately like, I don't know, technical about like your ability usage, just because there's high amount of energy usage in his kit. Okay, so something like this, we can do something like Focus Wand, and then we can do, because we're not using any of the summons, we're just gonna use Origin Hourglass. And then I like big damage, so we can go something like, yeah, Course of Fortune. So this thing is like, okay. I think if you are using Acambe, you also want to hedge on some amount of usage of the Wand plus Cup Resonance, just because his abilities are somewhat taxing. This does give you some more uptime of just like being able to constantly use his abilities by reducing, like, you know, a little bit of pressure here and there from his energy usage. So yeah, definitely use that one. And it's a Fortune cooldown. I don't know if this is impacted by his trait, the rewards and punishments, but that'd be interesting if it was. And also, it is important to note that this does increase HP, attack, and defense by 5%, which is also going in the end to increase the durability and damage of your Shadow Assassins. This can also be said for the Wand plus Wand Resonance too, so do keep that in mind. I think the others are kind of mid though, in my opinion. Okay, so we can go with that. And then, yeah, I do like I said, I am a devil junkie, so we're just going to find a devil that has some magic attack. Oops, I just saw one at the very, very tippy end. Is it this one? This one has magic attack, okay. You probably want to go for maybe a special devil with a special 4th slot, because that does mean you get to your peak higher or quicker. So, okay, so this is good because this build is like a, I think, okay defensive build. I'm sorry, not defensive build. Wrong way of saying that completely. This is an okay single target damage dealing build because we have our main energy spender, Thirk's Annihilation, and then we have a variety of ways to reduce the stress on our energy pool via Resonance Engraving. You can also, so you want to probably swap this with, like, yeah, this one. So there, the Resonance Engraving, but on top of that, you've got our trait that's gonna keep us topped off here. Okay, so let's see how this works. And what kind of team you want to run this with. Honestly, this sort of build is somewhat team agnostic. You can run Coco. I think she's particularly strong because she does give energy generation. But like, I think it is still particularly valid with someone like Mytha. Let me sure. Is this Mytha? I think set up with the correct. Well, because I don't want to worry about like redoing this. Here we go. So we can set her up like this, like so. We can keep Rico because Rico just came out. And then, yeah, this should be sufficient enough to show like what it looks like for at least damage dealing. Okay. So we're just gonna like quickly play this through. We probably like chill back here. Put this on cooldown. Just sort of spam this. Okay, that's quite annoying. We could do something like this. There we go. He still gets in the way. Okay, 1 second. If I move Maita up like this. Okay, and then we can move Rico up like this. I'm hoping he doesn't go too deep here into impacting Acambe. There we go. Okay. Okay, so this is, I think, okay situation, but like, we're doing okay damage here. We're nearly like halfway of nuking this dude. Now the issue here is that like we haven't put down too much damage, and so we can start by whittling them away and maintaining our energy generation from our passive by doing like something like a Dark Ripple. This does set us up for next turn to, I think, basically close out at least a few of these units. If we do want to close this out with something like a Energy Ray, I think at least for the units in the back with the shields, this is going to be particularly strong. The ones from the front aren't going to be dealt enough damage, I don't believe. And this is, I guess, kind of where this sort of build falters, and that like you definitely do need someone to be doing at least some splash damage. Mind you, we only have like 2 units out here, and okay, and that's like 14k damage is like pretty reasonable. You have to keep that in mind. Okay, I think that's fine. Okay. Okay, quite annoying. Yeah, this is super annoying. The annoying part is the silencing dude. So we can like move it here and just like target this dude and like get probably enough damage on them. Okay. Whittle them down a bit. Jeez. Okay, and then we can do something like... There we go. Alright, so then we can like, yeah, we can start like one-shotting them now. The good thing here, I guess, at least with Devil, is that we can start building our Devil stacks nicely. We might even be able to Dark Ripple and kill a few of them if we, I guess, if we had a crit. I don't know what the default crit rate is, but like this is one of the potentials. You can also think about like hitting the units in the back here with shields. It does a little extra damage here. These units are still a little too high. Not my preferred way of killing or playing with Acambe, but like we're also down some health, so that's going to attribute to some of our damage reduction, or our damage being reduced. But this is also like a route. And then basically you'd also want to probably go something like Nightmare Puppet here, just because you're probably adding a lot of debuffs anyways if you're going like scaling as AoE. But yeah, in general, this is definitely, I think, a not the best way to play Acambe, but it is like a route. We're doing like respectable damage here. It's like 7k damage on one attack. But yeah, this is like I've seen before, like hit 20k damage. It's like it gets pretty potent. I mean, we might even be able to do it somewhere here. 8k. Yeah, nothing really here is gonna reach 20k though. Okay, so that's one build. That's one build that you can run with Acambe. It is kind of hit or miss in my opinion, but there's more stuff out there to be doing that we could do. Yeah, make sure you keep your energy above 3 in my opinion, unless you like are really stuck in a pinch. Which I guess we would say we're in a pinch there. Okay, so we could also do something like, in my opinion, the better route of playing Acambe is something like we can go Disarm Strike. And depending on how we want to play this, we could play more I guess conservatively, we like swap this with rewards and punishments, squander, so we get our utility, and then we have something like Shadow Assassin. And we want to remove this wand with something like a skeleton staff. And basically we get the ability to play more, I guess, in a sustained route, while also doing like a good amount of utility. Like we can see how this plays. And it does like a lot of respectable damage too. Like for the amount of effort you're putting in just to like do damage with the Acambe, mind you, it is spread out. You're doing a lot of damage. So you can do, probably wait here. Wait for them to come. There we go. 4K. And I totally forgot about that. Quite annoying. They basically want to play upward here. That way, lightning doesn't get like triggered and like trigger happy. There we go. Alright. Okay, so look how much damage we're doing considering we're not really doing much. We're just gonna put out some assassins here. Let's see. We could do like this. No, we definitely want to go the straight route. Actually, let's just like march here. So that way we don't have to worry about like our positioning too much. So yeah, we can put an assassin here. And this is like one of those situations where like you're in a pinch and you just want to try to kill, do as much damage as possible. Like just this alone is like doing 20k damage probably. Yeah, 34k damage. And that's like without any support, mind you. We could also go a little lower too. Like I imagine based on like that alone, this would probably do like 20k or close to 20k damage. And it's just like one Shadow Assassin, right? So like there's a lot of damage here. It's just like not potentially realized because it's just kind of spread throughout. The added benefit too here though is like that damage is somewhat sticky because the AoE from that is dealing the healing received, right? So like they can't just heal it up. So it's spread out. It's kind of lower than we'd want, and like, you know, I guess ideally you might want to like just kill one unit as soon as possible. The fact that we get healing received means that like it's gonna be, yeah, definitely more sticky. Okay, so on top of that, we can also ensure that we finish off on units if they're low enough just with our front line, because the units are dealing damage based on Acambe's damage, just like on various different turns. So like, okay, this doesn't quite kill, but like you can imagine if they were lower enough, it would kill. And there we go, we got a skeleton proc. Okay, so like in this situation, we could do something like Rich Rewards, which is like buffs us generally. I think it's like really strong. I think it could be a good play here. We could also just like move the units back a bit because they're kind of close to Acambe with something like a Greed Leads Rune. So we can just like show that off here. Let me see. We want to get the lightning though. Wait, can we not get the lightning? Wait, it has to target. Wait, I swear it didn't have to like target. It has to like target around a unit, I think. So if I like do down one? Interesting. This is quite strange. I do want to get that lightning blow us, but I guess we can't. Like, we can just show it though. So yeah, that moves those units back and it sets them up nicely by reducing their magic defense. So we could do something like this, attacking, like killing this Tempest here, or we can kill the lightning here. I'm saying like their names like they're unlockables, but yeah, we can kill this Knighted Pikeman, or we can kill this and like this Elite Swordsman. And then we also do get some, I guess, distance as well. So like that's the utility here. Okay, we also do want to show that like how you might want to use these Shadow Assassins, how it might show up in game if you're using them as bait. So for example, if we just like move everyone back here. Including Rico. Okay, that was unfortunate. I think we have to move Rico up. Maybe? Hold up. Me trying to ensure we're not getting silenced is quite annoying. Okay, that's annoying. 1 second. If we do this, we're just gonna show like placement of Acambe Shadow Assassins and how useful it is to consider. So if we just run Tear here. We should be able to very nicely go first here. Move up. Okay, so for the Shadow Assassins here, you could do something like, if you want to do just damage, you could go something like move here, place here, place here. Oops, wrong way. You basically want to place them such that they're not by adjacent tiles, like connected tiles. And this basically allows it such that they stay untargetable and they do a bunch of damage. So if you have like long range damage, single target damage dealers, they do even more damage. But also if you want to keep them around a bit, you just do that. Now, there could be other situations in which you want them to actually take damage, like you want to use them as like assisting cover. You should sit them side by side. And this is helpful, especially when you have skeleton one, is because you do get a refund in your energy usage, basically. So you kind of like that. You can still do the damage, but they're going to be able to be targeted. And this matters for all units. I'm sorry, all friendly units. As long as they're side by side with the Shadow Assassins, they will be targetable. And so that's something to keep in mind here. Okay, so that's cool and all. What other builds do we have for Acambe? So one of the other builds we can do is, I guess, the AoE spam build, which also is one way I did used to play him. Not too much anymore. Like basically you could trade out something like rewards and punishments to something like Dark Ripple. This one's like kind of cool, kind of cute, in that like you basically are just setting up units in order for you to be able to let's see, how can I do this? Can I do this nicely? If Terra goes first, I think we should be fine. Basically this sets it up for AoE damage, and like you can pretty handily like always do this if you have like a mana spammer or energy spammer. Something like this. I mean, the damage increase doesn't matter too much, but sure, we'll do it. We just want to get the point across. And then meditation. Okay, and now we can do something like we do greed leads to ruin to basically put everyone in one little area. And now there's two things you can do here. You can either play Shadow Assassins to do increased damage, like so. And then you can do another one like right here is like the first we can get. And this does a lot of damage, right? Their magic defenses decreased a lot. They're doing 20k damage. But you also can just do the Dark Ripple. So you put everyone together. And then you just Dark Ripple here. Can I get one more back? I can't get one more back. Actually, no, I can't get one more back. Dark Ripple like this. And it's doing like comparable damage, right? So like, if you have another person to set up too here, you could like spam another attack here. And like they're all grouped up. So it's like really nice to set up other units too with the combo here. And then, yeah, you can definitely go more supportive as you want. For example, if you do intend on using more summoning units, you might even want to trade off like Dark Ripple with something like rewards and punishment. Or if you're going like more defensive, or supportive utility, I often don't go this way, but you go something like potential burst or like hypnosis. This is also valid. There's also one other build that you could go, which is like Burning Riches route. Personally, not my favorite, but it does mean you get a lot of, I guess, there's a lot of ways to end up like being out of energy, but also if you're looking to just spam summoned units, this is like the way. If you do go this way, I do recommend something like a fancy hat. Let's see, where fancy hat. And then this does mean you want to, yeah, you can definitely, if you go fancy hat, I mean, this is probably okay. It probably, I guess, shows the point as well. You can end up using like the burning riches and not be impacted by the negative side effect of energy, no energy restored. So, and this of course is a little more mana efficient or energy efficient for Acambe, at the cost of just like, you know, having another cooldown, having to like manage the uptime of your summoned assassins. So there's a lot to be said here, but it is something. You also do get the benefit of like having a having another utility ability, which is like the knockback. It isn't valid everywhere, but like when it comes in handy, like you can really see it. It also creates a front line for Acambe, right? It's like in this case, you can imagine like, what if we don't even have a front line? You can like build your own basically. Triggers collision here too as well. Also significantly increases our double stacks for not the good reasons. So yeah, the issue with this now though is that we don't really, let's see. We don't really have a good way of dealing damage after that, right? It's like our shadow summons are basically inoperable. But now we have to like lead to spamming Squander, right? So like this is like pretty problematic with this build. So maybe you swap out like Burning Riches from Shadow Assassins, and you have like rewards and punishments there. But you can just end up spamming like Reed Leads to Rune as well. That's like valid, I think, in my opinion. Why can't we hit this? The targeting is like weird for some reason. Can I really not move one back and get the I guess I'll be in the way. Like Acambe will be in the way. But yeah, you should end up like spamming this and do like if this happens. Which is like okay, right? As long as you have someone to take advantage of this. Okay, so let's end up seeing like builds and team comps that might work with Acambe here. And then we can also just like try this in game. So in general, you do want to have some amount of single target damage dealing. I think redundancy and like these debuffs are like okay, just because I don't know. I think it's okay. Let's see. So like for a team, you definitely want like people, if you're building around Acambe, you want people that can give them energy and maybe even act again. So like Coco would be strong. Even like OG Anana, like she's also strong. Even like current Nana, like quite strong as well. My current one isn't like 4 or 5 stars, so she doesn't give energy. Aisha 5-star will give Acambe energy. That's also like quite strong. And then Anana is also quite strong here, like I said. She does need some energy, I think, in my opinion. So we're gonna give her like, yeah. Give her this one. Okay, and then that should be mostly, that should be like an example of a team comp that like really suits well with Acambe, but also isn't like necessarily a Acambe team comp. In general, I think it is fine also run Acambe by himself. You don't have to like just spam abilities. Like we already saw, Acambe does a crap ton of damage just by himself without any sort of energy comp, right? Like just because they can potentially do more, like there's reason to do more with Acambe, doesn't mean you have to, right? Like dealing 30k damage across like 5 units or whatever it was in the like previous 3 matches is like by itself, that's okay, right? You don't have to like one-shot every unit just because you look at them, right? So and there's good reason not to be able to do that, right? I would like Acambe to be like significantly broken in my opinion. So yeah, this is like strong because we can have Acambe act again. If he has energy, that means we can just spam more some Shadow Assassins. So we can show you that in a bit here. Let's see, who would give energy? Who also gives energy generation? You can also like full Acambe. So I don't think Bitterwort is one of them. One of the Hangman Candlelight? I think Candlelight might be one of them. She basically can spam, yeah, special mission. And this just like gives Acambe all the mana. So like, yeah, this would be strong with Acambe. And then we also want to make sure we're taking Urgent Order, March of Command. Like the rest is like whatever. Maybe in Flag of Convallaria. Yeah, I think this is like fine. And yeah, we can just like literally spam the heck out of units here. And like it gets better too for sure. So we go here. Iron Pot Stew. Okay, and now we can do something like Tactics, Urgent Order. Let's see. It's probably fine for now. And then literally just like come up here, place some Shadow Assassins, place more Shadow Assassins, wait to use the Shadow Assassins, come over here, give Acambe more energy, have him act again, place more Shadow Assassins. And like as you can see, if we have like more act agains or like a way to speed up his turn before the next turn, we could like place more Shadow Assassins and then literally just like do a full out secret signal. And like this is just doing so much damage, right? Like 36k damage, right? So there's definitely ways to build around Acambe, but like you don't really have to. Like we were already hitting like high amounts of damage before. It's not necessary. Acambe by himself already does so much damage, and not even for like much effort, right? It's literally just like secret signal by itself will like just do so much damage. It's not like it's AoE. And it's like sticky damage too, right? No healing received afterwards. On top of that, we're not even talking about the assisting damage or assisting attack that these also provide. So yeah, there's a lot happening with Acambe. So let's just go into a game and see how he plays. We're actually like already hitting the hour mark here. So let's see. We can just do some Pioneering Odyssey. Let's see. Yeah, we are still very much behind. Defender HP increase. Cool. Then let's just like show what Acambe feels like when you play him. Okay, this is okay. Let's see. We kind of want to get rid of Anana just because I feel like she definitely takes the light out of like the featured units we're going through. For example, like we want to use Acambe as a basically as a damage dealer here. To really show off, I guess. I think that's the most interesting playstyle for Acambe in my opinion, is like the damage dealing. So yeah, I guess we didn't really go over extensively like what the difference between the skeleton staff and the cornucopia. Basically, the skeleton staff, because we do have the ability to trigger essentially, right? If we spawn two summoned units adjacent to each other, the enemy AI will oftentimes just attack one of them, and then once one of them are basically solo, or yeah, they can't be attacked or are untargetable, and that's just because no units are around them in a cross radius, we basically get a energy recovery from the skeleton staff. Now that means we get one every turn, but there could be turns where like we just don't want units to die, and so that's when cornucopia staff becomes better. In the sense that if you get to I think 3 stars, you get the 2 energy basically every 2 turns you could potentially do. So yeah, that could happen. But also there is the chance that you get the cornucopia staff trigger at the start of the turn, the start of the battle, and that will be super helpful for Acambe and leading up the next attacks. So reasons to play that. We're not going to go with Burning Riches. In my opinion, is not the best way to play. So we can get rid of something like the hat, and we can go like Origin Hourglass, right? And yeah, I think this is like very solid by itself. Yeah, we definitely want the, in my opinion, second slot, so we can do this. I'm sorry, the fourth slot special. Like, I think this is like my go-to build in my opinion. Offers utility support on top of just like being able to sustain a little more for Acambe, to be a little more greedy with his usage, his ability usages. But we also have like Coco to help like sustain the energy if we really need to. Everyone else is sort of just like not really needing to sustain that much energy. We do have someone like Gloria, so basically we can increase the damage reduction from our spawned summons, also attack from them as well. So you can see that like you can increase Acambe's attack, and Acambe's attack increases the unit's attack, but the units, when you summon them, don't have the attack increase anymore, right? They're just born that way. And so when you increase their ability from like someone else who can increase their ability, from like Gloria, you can see how like the damage kind of goes exponential in that case. Not quite exponential, but like this is napkin math. Sad, we don't have like a really other damage dealer here. We want to make sure our units are also doing single target damage, so that way they can take advantage of Acambe's assisting attacks from his assassins. And then we can go something like, we could do Terror again. Well, not again, but Terror could be good here. Could do, I guess we keep Rico, right? It's Rico debut weekend. Alright. Could lead off with this. It's kind of risky. Just because we're not sure if we can get that far. I guess we kind of want to bring the enemies a little closer to us. Here we go. Alright, we've got like quite a tanky front line. Considering we have like Coco, Gloria, etc. Also, yeah, the Shadow Assassins do benefit off of auras too. So like, yeah, they're definitely like exponentially benefiting. And in this run here, or this situation, I kind of like the idea of like using them definitely more assisting for like single target damage dealing. We are above 2 stars. I do kind of want them to be away from Coco, just because I don't want Coco to give them energy. I want Coco to give me energy, right? Do like this. Also something we said about like having them like just right here. They can't be dealt damage. Start tacking on some damage. Okay, and then this does let us get some damage on, let's see, I think some of these back units here, like here. Additional investment. And then yeah, if you see like these units, these assassins, you can see their buffs they're getting. So like Vorpal Blade here is doing 5k. Right? 100% AoE damage to all enemies in 2 tiles. Alien healing received. And consider that like, yeah, rewards and punishments is increasing their damage. Also leader's aura increasing their damage and defense. They don't have too high of a... Yeah, they don't have any cooldowns on any of their abilities, but like, yeah. You can see they're having a good time. And then here, I kind of like this idea. Iron Pot Stew here. Okay, and then we can do, I feel like knock this unit back. It will hit our assassin, I think collisioning too? No, okay. And I think here, yeah, we're getting energy here a lot. So we can like spam a lot of Shadow Assassins next turn. This Shadow Assassin is vulnerable to the front one. Oops, there goes that. But now we can, I feel like, comfortably land a Calamity of Ice Field. Okay, let's spam some more Shadow Assassins. So we go here, spam here. And here. Did some nice damage. Then we can put this one to sleep right here. Okay, I mean, yeah, you can see like doing pretty nicely here. We probably didn't have to move actually. Like stay here. You can heal up Rico. Give up some energy to Acambe. I mean, he's already hitting max energy though already. Okay, but we can like Dragon Roar here. And then what we do here is kind of up in the air. Hammer Smash. Okay. Give us some breathing room before maybe one of them arrives. One of the Ice Priests here. Alright, yeah, you can see like we're pretty handily like spamming Shadow Assassins a lot here. Now one of our abilities are going to be on cooldown. We can just like set them up for like whenever someone else auto attacks. Let's see, put one here. I guess we can do a we can do rich rewards here for like next turn when we want to like unleash a super strong attack from our Shadow Assassins. At least one of them. Okay, this could actually slow down them here a bit. Which would be nice because our Shadow Assassins are back here far enough. I do want to get rid of this dude. This dude's annoying. Rico on backline duty. Do this. Grants them move, but I don't think they can use move. Okay, yeah, this isn't helping them too much. Let's see. This dude, is his attack increased? Yeah, he's doing 9k damage with his Vorpal Blade. He's already attack up 4. So like once we do use Vorpal Blade, like you can see it's gonna do crazy damage. But this one back here, the one in the back, he's only got 6k damage. He's got attack up already, I think. Oh, he doesn't have attack up. We can give him attack damage reduction too, but I don't think that's gonna matter. He's not gonna be dealt damage. Okay, so then we can do like more Shadow Assassins. And honestly, we can just like probably not use up all of our energy here. One more, and then like hope to do some good damage on our single target attacks. $5k damage, kind of mid. Yeah, it's gonna be quite hard to evaluate based on the endgame result screen, just because they don't have damage nicely pointing towards Acambe, right? It's all just like from his Shadow Assassins they're doing the damage. And part of this also is just like buffing and energy generation that we have from Acambe. And this one definitely is like if like more like a comp geared towards more Acambe. So it's a little biased in that sense. This could be just pushed to their back line here. Could just do like this. Actually, no. If we go back one more, might be a little better. Here, let me increase one here. We do want to make sure we're in range of Gloria because she gives the attack up from her flag. And the attack up does help with the summons. I can do this. pretty good. 26k. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to tell because it looks like he only did 5k, but it's like, yeah, it's very weird. But yeah, that's kind of like Acambe. Of course, I could go over again like how it might be helpful in other team comps, but like in general, I feel like that's a good showing of Acambe. Now, I've got to rest because I feel like I did a speed run on Acambe here, but there's like just so much to be said about his like ability to be relevant on teams. Yeah, let me know what y'all think about it in the comments below. Are you running Acambe? Is he still good? Is he still valid? Like I said before, I think a lot of the tiers, the tier list that I do see, they have him particularly low, but I still think he does a good amount of damage. It's just sort of packed across a variety of turns, and also it being spread across multiple units. Like all his damage is like AoE, right? So yeah, there's a lot to be said here. And of course you can build around him, but also not build around him, and he'll still be pretty decent. Yeah, let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Peace out.